Welcome back, and it's day 3 of the IMC Math Challenge. I won't spend much time on the introduction bit because you've probably seen the first 2 videos. So these are the notably harder jump in difficulty questions, 16 to 20. Recommend roughly 3 minutes per question, no more. Some questions you'll get more quickly, some questions will take you a bit longer, but average of 3 minutes. First question coming up in 3, 2, 1. This one's not a terrible one actually, so it's a nice sort of lead into the harder ones. The key to this question is if you want to halve something, you divide by 2, but my base value here is 4 to the power of something. So therefore, if I write down what I have originally, so I've got 4 to the power of 2022 divided by 2. If I convert the 4 to 2, well, 4 is 2 squared, so that's the same as 2 to the power of 4044 divided by 2. Index rules, take away 1 from the number at the top, and that gives me 2043. Is that one of my answers? Yes, it is. Answer D. First question done, not too bad at all. Next question gets a little bit tougher. Next question appears in 3, 2, 1. So obviously a little bit hard if you don't have the diagrams in front of you, but nevertheless, it's something you should be able to work out with a quick sketch. So the way to approach these questions is, as I say in any of the videos you watch me do, it's a circles question, so it's about radii. So first of all, let's just make a copy of the diagram because it makes it easier to draw. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to consider the fact that all lengths are 1. I can break the straight line parts down into units of 1. So what do I mean by that? Well, I've done it on the screen for you, so it makes a bit more sense. So you can see if we look at x, well, x is going to be 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1 on the top, plus the same on the bottom, plus 2 half circles. So the way I've chosen to represent that is x is 6 plus 6 plus 2 half circles, which is the same as 12 plus a full circle. Now, the catch to this question is, although it looks like it should be a lot longer, the y value is, if we look at one side of the triangle, it's 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1, which is 4, plus a third of, if we look down here in the bottom left, a third of a circle. And 3 lots of a third of a circle is a whole circle. So actually, when I add all these things up, I get exactly the same thing. So this one is the same length. In other words, it's going to be answer C. X and Y are the same length. They don't look it, but indeed they are. Next question up in 3, 2, 1. Okay, so this is a slightly harder question because the numbers don't feel like they should work out nicely. But let's just write down the numbers anyway and see what happens. So I've sold my horse for £56. The percentage profit I made, well, percentage profit is the difference between the amount I paid compared to the amount I sold it for. So let's say I bought it for X. Well, what I do know then is my percentage profit is X%. So therefore, I must be able to write that X times 1 plus X to the power of 100 is equal to 56. And again, just to clarify the question, the percentage profit made was numerically the same as the cost. So that's why that's the same X there. Again, I've got an equation. It looks quite horrible. It looks like something I can't do in a non-calculator paper. So even when I'm doing this question, there's a degree of let's kind of just give it a go and see what happens. So I'm going to multiply the brackets out. I'm then going to multiply both sides by 100, which is going to give me this scary looking equation here. Now, it's not immediately obvious which two numbers divide into 5600, but I do know that 56 is 7 times 8, so I could try 70 times 80. But that doesn't work because 70 plus 80 or 80 minus 70 or whichever way around I want to do it, that gives me 10, not the 100 I need for the number in the middle. So if I borrow one of the 2's from the 80 and move it across to the 70, that gives me 140 and 40, and those do indeed add to give me 100 or minus 100. So I found my factor pair, in other words. So therefore that means I want to be plus 100, which means my brackets are going to be X plus 140, X minus 40. And again, that feels difficult in a non-calculator paper, but a bit of playing around with the factors and it does fall out. Now, clearly, if X is either minus 140 or 40, I can't buy something for a negative value, so therefore it must be the case that X equals 40. Is that one of my answers? Yes, indeed, it's answer B, and the next question is done, answer B. Next question up in 3, 2, 1. Okay, I'm going to show you 2 ways of doing this one. So I'm going to show you a way which you learn when you do A-level maths, but others may have learned it earlier, and then I'm going to do just basically using angles. So what do I have? I have a sector. You know from your maths that the way to calculate areas of sectors or areas of arcs is to use the angle. So I'm going to put the angle in, even though I don't know what the angle is. Now, firstly, I'm going to show you using radians. If you've never seen radians before, basically don't worry what I'm about to do. I'm going to do both methods. So the radian method is quite neat because I know the area of an arc is r times theta, and my area of my arc is 10. So r theta equals 10. I know my radius is 6, so therefore that means I can say theta is 5/3. I've done the hard part of the question. I've worked out what my angle is, again in radians. If you haven't seen radians, forget what I'm doing here. The point is, now I've got an angle, I can use my area of a sector, which is a half r squared theta, where again theta is in radians. I've got my theta, substitute the numbers in, and that's going to give me a final value of 30. Let's do it the slightly longer method. So the longer method you're probably all aware of is the area of a sector is theta divided by 360 times pi r squared. I don't know what theta is, but I do know the length of the arc is 10. So I can say theta over 360 times the circumference, in other words, the fraction of the circumference, which is the arc, is 10. Rearrange that to give me an equation for theta, remembering I know r is 6 because that's my radius. So that tells me that theta equals 10 times 360 over 2 pi r. Substitute that into my area equation, and thankfully, given this is a non-calculator paper, lots of things cancel out. 360s cancel, pi cancels, one of my r's cancel down to 6, and that just leaves me with 5r, which is 5 times 6, which is 30, or answer A. Not as bad as it looks, but definitely involving a little bit of algebra. Final hard question today. I like the next one that's coming up. So next one's coming up in 3, 2, 1. Okay, so this is a nice question because it's another one of these questions that feels like it's not going to work but just falls out quite nicely. So it tells me I have 5 integers. So let's write those integers down. So those integers are A, B, C, D, and E in order. Then it tells me that the mode is 2 more than the median. Now, because there's only 5 numbers, it must be the case that the mode is 2 of the numbers, and those numbers are larger than the median, so therefore it must be the case that D and E are my mode, and they are both bigger than the median, which is the one in the middle, which is C. So in other words, I can say both D and E are C plus 2 and C plus 2. The next fact it tells me is the mean is equal to C minus 2. So it says up here the mean is 2 less than the median, and I've called the median C, so it's C minus 2. So I can set up another equation. I can say that A plus B plus C plus C plus 2 plus C plus 2, in other words, A plus B plus 3C plus 4 divided by the 5 terms I've got is C minus 2. Again, the mean is the same as the median minus 2. This gives me an equation. I'll multiply both sides by 5. That gives me something that doesn't feel much more helpful, but let's move the C and the 4 across, which is going to give me A plus B equals 2C minus 14. And then I'm stuck. Because how could I do this? Because I don't have another equation. So this is where I need to go back to the question and use what the question tells me. So the question says, our 5 integers, what is the largest possible value of the range? Well, we've locked in what the largest value is. The largest value is C plus 2. So the smallest I can make A is going to be the mirror of the largest I can make B. And the largest I can make B without it being another mode is to make it C minus 1. So then I can set B is equal to C minus 1. So the maximum B is C minus 1, which means I've got an equation for B in terms of C. I've got an equation for D in terms of C. I've got an equation for E in terms of C, which just leaves A left behind. So A equals C 2C minus 14 minus C minus 1, which is the B. Collect all those terms, I get C minus 13. Now that again feels like I haven't done it, but what does the question want? The question wants the range. Now I know the largest value is C plus 2, and I know the smallest value is C minus 13. I don't know what C is, but I do know the range between those numbers is 15, and so therefore my final answer is going to be the difference between the high and the low, which is just going to be 15, or my answer of D. Nice ending question, and as I say, this gets harder as we go through. I think we've just jumped a bit in difficulty within those 5 questions alone, and the last 5 are definitely going to challenge you a bit more. So make sure you do like the video, subscribe to the channel just to make sure you see the other ones, and that is done for today. Thanks all.